Okay, the Army Times is reporting that fully one-third of Americans of basically kind of draft age, young Americans, 17 to 24 years old, one-third are unfit to serve. This isn't just within the military. I mean, just if we were to have a draft, the primary problem is obesity, but there are also a whole lot of other problems, including mental problems. So there's that. We have this horrible shooting that happened at Fort Hood. Dahr Jamail is with us, the independent investigative journalist, the author. His most recent book, The Will to Resist, Soldiers Who Refuse to Fight in Iraq and Afghanistan. His website, Dahr Jamail, D-A-H-R, Jamail, J-A-M-A-I-L, Iraq, IRAQ.com, and really worth getting over to and reading. And his most recent piece that, at least I think it's your most recent piece, Dahr, that you wrote, Where Will They Get the Troops? Preparing Undeployables for the Afghan Front. Dahr, welcome back to our show.
Thanks very much, Thom.
It's always great having you on. We just had an economist on saying that, we need more guns on our military bases to protect people from crazies with guns on our military bases. What is the status of the people on our military bases right now?
Well, they, just like at Fort Hood, they are overstretched. They are in shock about what just happened, and probably facing imminent deployment, especially given that we're on the brink of President Obama looking at sending as many as 34,000 more troops to Afghanistan. So basically, I want to just talk about Fort Hood specifically because it gives us such a good example of kind of overarching problems affecting the military across the whole country. I mean, Fort Hood, even before this tragedy of last Friday, this is the largest base on U.S. soil. It's the most heavily deployed base in the country, and this was a base that, talking just some signs of the overburdened military and cracks in the edifice of the U.S. military, the strain of these two ongoing occupations. At Fort Hood alone, talking about suicides, up until the end of July, which is the most recent month we have on statistics that they've released on suicides there, by the end of July, that base is averaging more than 10 suicides every single month just at Fort Hood.
Oh, 10 a month. Oh, that's terrible. And traditionally the military has had a much lower suicide rate than the civilian population because to get into the military you have to go through mental health screening. The people in the military tend to be young and healthy, whereas the suicide statistics in the general population are heavily skewed primarily by mental illness and by elderly people taking their lives or sick people taking their lives because they can't deal with the pain of cancer or whatever. And yet now I understand that the military suicide rate has approached the civilian population suicide rate. This is a sign of a very badly broken military, is it not, Dahr Jamail?
It is that, and also it's indicative of the lengths the military has been doing to provide enough troops for both of these occupations because they've actually raised the allowable enlistment age up to 42. They've lowered requirements on standard test scores and allowable weight for people joining, and even criminal records. For example, there are convicted rapists in the military. There's over 8,000 people with rap sheets as we speak in the military. There's white supremacists. There's gang members joining the military to get training and combat experience so they can be more effective when they come back to their cities here in the U.S. So all of these together also contribute to that statistic that you just mentioned.
Right. Sam Stein just posted a blog over at Huffington Post that the American Family Association, one of these right-wing groups, has now come out with a press release and they're starting a campaign to purge the military of Muslims. My understanding is there's more than 400 Muslim soldiers in Fort Hood, and these people are, in my mind, way up high on the victim list of what Major Hassan did because, I doubt any of them agree with any kind of anti-American ideology. They're there in the military, regardless of what his motives may turn out to have been. And this seems crazy to me. I mean, we've got thousands of Muslims serving in our military. Your thoughts on this, Dahr Jamail?
Well, it is complete lunacy. It is literally crazy to be acting that way. So, by that kind of thinking, then last year when a Christian soldier at Fort Hood killed another soldier, as happened last September a year ago, then all Christians should be purged from the U.S. military. I mean, if we can, if we would take the rampant racism out of the picture and discrimination that is behind the motives of this statement being released by this crazy group, if we just turn it around, well, any problem, if we're going to say it has something to do with religion, then Christians should have been purged out of the military decades ago.
Yeah, this is my concern. I mean, the shooting happened while we were on the air, and was it last Thursday, as I recall?
Friday.
And Louise and I were driving home from the radio station. I didn't, it was just breaking in our last hour, so I didn't get into it. We didn't have the facts. We drove down to the next town for dinner, and then we drove back, and so we listened to about an hour of right-wing talk radio, just bouncing around the dial, hitting as many as we could, because there's four sources of right-wing talk in this town. And all of them, without exception, were, it's the Muslims. The Muslims are coming to get you. I told you so. We need to be afraid. We need to purge these people out of our society. It was from the local right-wingers to the national right-wingers, this fear and hysteria and, frankly, hatred that is being whipped up, I think is even more dangerous to us as a society than what sparked that hatred, that is this horrific act on Fort Hood. Your thoughts, Dahr Jamail? We have about a half a minute left. DahrJamailIraq.com, the website.
I think it is too. I think it's a situation where this has far-reaching ramifications, much worse than the atrocity that happened at Fort Hood last week, where just whipping people into a hysteria where it's all about anti-Muslim and anti-Arab and all of this, instead of looking at the deeper problem, which is maybe both of these ongoing endless occupations aren't such a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this kind of thing before, and it led to the Army McCarthy hearings in the United States and Kristallnacht in Germany, and God forbid it happens here again. Dahr Jamail, D-A-H-R, Jamail, Jamail, Iraq.com, his website. Dahr, thanks for so much for being with us here again.
Always a pleasure, Thom. Thanks again.
Thank you. And we'll be right back.